Beijing, ancient capital, modern metropolis, the home of emperors, and the heart of a great cultural tradition. Beijing, old and sedate, young and dynamic, a modern open city on the fast track to reinventing itself. Beijing, where two worlds mingle. Being Beijing is experiencing the life, seeing the sights, sampling the culture. That's being Beijing.
Hi, welcome to Travelogue. I'm Mark Edwards and I'm here at Desheng Gate. Now, back in the day, this was the place where, on the extreme edge of Beijing, step outside of these gates and technically you're outside of the city. Now, throughout the series, we focus on things to do and places to see within the city walls. But in the final episode, for the next half hour, I'm going to hopefully show you what you need to go and check out on the outskirts of Beijing. Enjoy!
Beijing is the political, educational and cultural centre of China. Split into districts, the capital city today stretches far beyond its city walls into what are called its counties. By the gates, located at the edge of what used to be the city proper, there are transport hubs from where eager Beijingers and tourists can set out for destinations within Beijing as well as around its outskirts. Back in the past, each of these gates served its own particular function. It was through Desheng Gate, for instance, that victorious troops made their return to the city, while Anding Gate was where they set out on expeditions. I was doing things a little backwards by heading out of Desheng Gate to go and explore some of the gems to be found on the outskirts of the city. Maybe I'd somehow return victorious through Anding Gate, or simply be happy with some astute tourism.
So I've driven out about an hour outside the center of Beijing to the Tanja, the oldest temple in this region of China. So old, in fact, that they actually say, first came the Tanja temple, then came Beijing.
Situated 45 kilometers west of Beijing, Tanja Temple is the largest of all of Beijing's temples. With a history of over 1,600 years, it is one of the most important holy sites in the capital. Tourists and religious folk slowly and peacefully make their way together up a delightful climb amongst the trees to reach the temple. This place is a must-see for anyone with a love of Chinese temples and dramatic mountain scenery. Or even if you're just looking for a chance to relax in a peaceful environment. That said, try and avoid coming here on the 1st and the 15th days of the lunar month, as that's when the temple is overflowing with people coming to worship and burn incense. Unless, of course, big crowds are your thing. Personally, I was quite happy visiting on another day when the crowds were sparse and I was able to lethargically take in the sights. It really is an ideal day trip if you want to get away from the hustle and bustle of a big cosmopolitan city like Beijing. And spending some time in Tanja Temple, or its tea house in particular, helps to reinforce this feeling. It's just so peaceful here. Whether you come to pray, or simply to fulfill your role as a budding culture vulture, you will find that the trees and flowers in and around Tanja Temple are worth the price of admission alone. 35 RMB if you're wondering. An excellent time to visit the Tanja Temple is around mid-April, when the magnolias are in bloom, yielding beautiful blossoms of white, yellow and purple. It takes about an hour and a half to get from Tanja Temple to Chuandixia. Originally called Chuandixia, meaning under the stove, this tiny village of around 100 souls is an ideal two-day trip for those with a passion for Chinese vernacular architecture or those keen for a glimpse of life in rural China. Nestled in a valley some 90 kilometers west of Beijing and overlooked by towering peaks, Chuandixia is a gorgeous cluster of courtyard homes and old-world charm. There are even signs in Chinese and English on the floor to point you in the right direction.
Okay, so here in Cuandixia, you will see this character extremely often scattered around the village. Now, Cuandixia stands for under the stove, and the first character is the stove character, which you can see here. Now, that's the literal translation, and you should never really literally translate anything, because in Chinese, the character is extremely meaningful. We have 4 characters within the one character. Now, this is testing my own research, and please don't call me up on this, but we do have fire here, 火, which is surrounded by a big fire, 大火, and that's above that we can find a forest or wood in lin. So we have fire with a forest, and above that, 兴, meaning sort of thriving. So the whole of the character it has a very good Chinese meaning of prosperity, so that there's prosperity across the village. So much better meaning in Chinese.
Cuandixia boasts some of the best preserved Seheyuan, or courtyard houses, in the Beijing area. It was opened to tourism in 1997. Steeped in a history of over 500 years, it was blissfully relaxing to wake up early and walk around this historic village completely undisturbed. It really has the feel of a place that is completely untouched by time. You can lose yourself amongst the narrow alleyways that snake their way around this hillside hamlet.
你从哪里来的吗？
我是从北京市里面过来的。
啊，是吗？你常常来这画吗？
对，我已经来了好多天了。你是从哪里？
The area is a magnet for artists, poets, and period drama camera crews. The look and feel of the village is ideal for imbuing artists and poets with the inspiration to pen or paint some creative magic. This in turn works for the TV and film industry, who don't need to fork out major sums of money on designing expensive traditional Chinese sets, when the entire village is, in itself, already preserved just as they want it. Even some Chinese blockbusters such as Warlords, starring Jet Li and Andy Lau, have used this tiny hamlet as a setting for their film. I thoroughly recommend spending the night in Cuandixia. You won't find any 5-star hotels here, but the local food is great, the people are friendly, and with most lodgings offering basic accommodation at around 15 RMB per night, you'd be hard-pressed to find better value for money for such a unique, one-off experience.
Hey buddy. Surrounded by dogs today. I finally arrived at the highest restaurant in Cuandixia, and it's coincidentally the hotel as well that I stayed in last night. Very cheap and comfortable. This is something that caught my mind earlier on when I was heading out, and I asked what it was, and it's in fact a menu, a Chinese menu. So we have all the dishes are made locally, and we have I think they told me this one was meat. One of them is that's fish. That's character for fish, and then cheeseburger, milkshake, and fries. Is that one? No idea. Can't really read them. But don't be worried in case you feel like you can't read any of those characters and you're going to be eating random foods. They do have a menu in English, so I don't need to pretend to know what I'm eating. But I've got to say, this is a perfect place to chill out, relax, have a cup of tea. It's very kindly been brought to me. And just check out the view. Cheers. The Great Wall!
The Ming tombs are situated around 50 kilometers northwest of Beijing and are the final resting place of 13 out of the 16 Ming emperors. might not be your idea of fun trekking out of Beijing to visit an imperial necropolis, but I guarantee that the more intellectual travellers amongst you will love the Confucian layout and design. Not that I class myself in that category in any way. If anything, it's another example of how peaceful some of the sights outside of Beijing can be. I had a great time strolling around the long gardens, checking out the tombs and the intricate animal statues scattered around the place. Hire car options are beginning to open up in Beijing, and for those happy to accept that laziness on holiday is not a sin, you'll be glad to hear that the majority of these come with a driver. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the Beijing countryside. That said, don't worry if you're driving on your own. There are maps available with both English and Chinese place names. It is a beautiful day today. The sun is shining and the sky is blue, and it's a perfect time to take a little trip outside of Beijing, which is what I've done. I'm an hour and a half outside and I'm here in Huairou district. A great place to check out. There's plenty of things to do. Firstly, if you want to just relax, you come down to Yangtze Lake. Take a little chill session there. Bit of culture, you can go and check out the Hongluo Temple, or do what I'm doing right now, and that's coming to the home of the Red Lantern. I'm in Hongmiao, and I'm going to see how those things are done, so and maybe even try and make one myself. Let's go check it out. Hongmiao is actually a tiny village located right by the Huanghua part of the Great Wall, so you can head there afterwards. Right, I've just been told there are 50 families that live in this little village, and each and every single one of them has something to do with the making of the Red Lantern. And this is where the magic happens. Let's go and have a look. 你好，你好。哎，你好。做什么？我在做灯了。做灯了。啊，做灯了。难不难？不难。不难。不难。你觉得不难？那说我觉得你也可以会。是吗？对。可以教我。可以。哎，行行行，教我教我。来。Very exciting. 来。已经都流了。In Hongmiao, you can come and buy your individual red lanterns, or even make one yourself, as I did. Despite getting glue all over my hands and generally looking as though I was born with no dexterity whatsoever, the experience of making my own lantern was fully worth the short stop on my way to